Hi, everybody. This is Sarah, Pearls of Wisdom and Food. And today we have a very special guest with us, and her name is Elizabeth. And she is going to share her story with us for Tuesday with a Turtle. And we're really excited to have her here. Um, and so I look forward to interviewing you. Hi, Elizabeth.
Hi, how are you, Sarah?
I'm good. It's so good to have you here. I can't wait to hear your story. So, do you want to just dive in, or do you want me to ask a couple of probing questions to get you lifted and going?
Oh, sure. Ask me questions if you'd like. That would be fine too.
Okay. Why don't you tell us a little bit of your journey with foods and diets and health concerns and kind of in the timeline that they happened so we can get to have a sense of who you are?
Okay. Well, I am not one of those people who were overweight as a young person. I may have been a chubby baby. I think all the mom's children was chubby babies. But I grew up what I would consider skinny. I was always told I was skinny or, decent figure. But when I hit about 18 or 19, the first weight I ever noticed was on my arms. And then I got married and started having children. And with each child, I kept 10 pounds, or with each miscarriage, I kept 10 pounds. And so the weight kept climbing. And I never could quite figure out why, because I worked in a physical job very, very hard. I don't know if you know what landscapers and lifting mulch or shoveling mulch and pitchforking mulch and lifting heavy trees and all those things. I would have surely thought that I was definitely uh, exercising more than I was eating, if that old paradigm is true. And it was not. And I just kept gaining weight and gaining weight. Um, and then one of the things that struck me is my sister in law asked me, she's a retired chiropractor. She says, Liz, your gait has changed. Why is your gait changed? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just in a hurry. I was walking through snow at the moment, and I just assumed, it was just being careful over the snow. And regardless, I knew I had fallen that day. And so in my life, I was just busy. I was raising three children, and we were running a business. And when I fell down, I really didn't think much about it. When I would turn my ankle, I really didn't think much about it. At night, when I was so exhausted, I was in tears and couldn't hardly lift my feet up to the back, get in the back door of our home. I really didn't think about it. I didn't think about it until my brother was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis. And he was diagnosed, and I really didn't think much about that either. Just, you know, tragic to watch him deteriorate. And then I got to try and my sister in law brought me a bunch of pamphlets. She goes, "You're just like your brother." And I'm like, "Oh, poo." you know. Uh, and she'd known that, she was watching me walk, I guess, and watching me react. She worked for me at the time. And so as I I was putting my daughter down one night, my baby daughter. Her name is Sarah, by the way. That's what stopped me on your channel, is I was missing my Sarah. So I was putting my daughter down, and I've got her. She was nursed, so I got her in my arms, and I'd been nursing her in the bed, and I got up to go put her in the bed, and I couldn't stand up straight. I literally was leaning on the wall as I was going to her bedroom to put her in her crib. And I thought, what in the world is wrong? And then I came back and got in bed, and I was laying there, and I, thought, oh my God, what if there's something wrong with me? And so then I had a panic attack. my very first panic attack. And I had a wonderful doctor who, explained that the panic attacks won't kill you. Once he explained that, I'm like, well, I'm good to go. Um, and But I knew things weren't it, like they were supposed to be. I knew my feet were too tired to come in the back door. I didn't know if the rest of the world was tired like I was. I knew my brain was extremely foggy. It was very hard to focus, to think, to greet customers who I'd known for 27 years, to be able to greet them and to talk. Um, One day I was trying to say a word, and instead a swear word came out. I'm like, that's not good. Uh, but about this time, I started going to the doctor, and I said to my doctor, I says, there, would you check me for multiple sclerosis? And he said, why would you even think that? I said, well, my brother Charlie has multiple sclerosis, and my sister-in-law says I'm a lot like him. She's watching him walk and helping him. He says, okay. He says, one thing I've learned is to never doubt a woman's intuition. Smart doctor. And so he says, I will have you tested. And the test came back positive, and he said, well, he said, let's get you on some medicines. He said, let's start you right away. He says, we've got it early. And I'm sitting there looking at him because about that time, my brother had taken one of the medications and it shut down his liver. At least that's the way I remember it. And I thought, as I was headed out the doctor's office door, I says, wait a minute, what are the side effects of that medicine? And he said, well, it could damage your heart, your liver, your lungs. And I'm like, well, I think I'll take my chances with a wheelchair. And he says, I was afraid you were going to say that. And just as luck would have it, by the time I thought I would probably, maybe I'll take the medicine, I went, and my doctors, I'm not one of those people who go to the doctor very often. And so I went back to the doctor's office, or to see if I could go see who he said to go see. And he wasn't there. He had moved out. I guess he retired. I think he retired to Florida or whatever, you know. So I missed that opportunity, and I thought, well, that's a sign I'm not supposed to take that medicine. I just won't do that. And so at that time, I found raw food. I listened to Dr. Ann Wigmore's books. I don't know if you know who she is. She's a big raw foodist who's passed now. But I bought her book, and I thought, well, I'll see what this is. And to me at the time, it made perfect sense. I grew my own wheatgrass. I bought the dehydrator. I dehydrated food. I was juicing. And this is for a person who has no energy and no strength and as foggy as can get in the brain. And I did all of those things for quite a few years. At first, weight came off, and then weight came back on. I even went to a special place. I think it's still there, called the Creative Health Institute. And I lost 40 pounds. I, I can't really do the math right now, but or more. I really lost weight in 2 months. I really lost weight. And I came back home, and you're supposed to maintain and do those things. And I tried. My husband even says, I don't have the strength or the energy to get up and juice. Will you juice for me? And will you make smoothies for me? And he did. Bless his heart. He's an angel. And he made juices and smoothies. And but I would still have what I call episode every 2 or 3 times a year. And but I figured, I don't know what other people's life is like with MS. I think I'm very lucky. Um, I did go to a neurologist here where we live, and I got re-examined. because my brother, before he passed away, he'd say, Liz, you're just not like me, honey. He says, I don't believe you have MS. And I would say, from your lips to God's ears. And I thought, well, let me go retest myself. Well, it was an ugly, ugly MRI on my brain. I
Hmm.
I don't even want to think about the way it looks. But so I said, okay, I've got to try harder. I'm not doing something right. This should not look like that. Um, and so um, I can't remember what I was doing before, but I woke up one morning, or not in the morning, in the middle of the night, and my ankle had drawn, and I didn't realize it. So I just stepped on my left ankle. Well, I immediately pulled up my foot and said, well, that's not right. And I tried to straighten it out and thought I had in my mind. I thought I'd straighten it because it's in the dark. I'm going to the bathroom. It's at night. And I put my weight back on it again, and I totally fell against the bed
Oh,
and turned my ankle very badly and scraped my self on the bed, on my arm, and everything was good and bruised. And that's when I had to go to a doctor and have my leg x-rayed and everything. And it wasn't broken, but at some time in my life, it was chipped in there. This was just a very bad sprain. And so I, they just thought it was a sprain, and I did too, until later. It's taken me so long to heal from this. I was literally either in a wheelchair. I couldn't do the crutches because my balance would not work. I could not balance myself on one right leg. Yeah, the right leg. I just couldn't do it. And so I had to use the wheelchair. And so that's when we ordered a wheelchair walker. And but I had never been in a wheelchair walker before that. And I'm sitting. My son says, Mama, he says, we have the Apple TV, and he says, you can get classical music through the Apple TV. He says, I know how you love classical music. And so I started messing around with the YouTube thing and listening to classical music. And then um, my mother and sister had passed away. And when I went through that event, I had what I would call a major episode. Um, and it took me 3 days to be able to get out of bed and to function again all by myself and get to the bathroom by myself. For those 3 days, my husband is more or less dragging me, um, uh, back and forth to the bathroom, and I laid in bed for 3 days. Well, then before that, I had been doing the Walls protocol. I don't know if you know who she is, Dr. Walls. And I had put on weight with that protocol because my brain was too foggy to probably literally understand what she was saying. I do not remember her saying count carbs. I'm sure it's in there, but I totally missed that. But the fact that I was putting in the fat, and it's somehow just putting in that fat and tons of vegetables and good meat, it simply turned my brain on. Literally, like somebody turned the lights on in my head. And I felt like I had been in the dark for most of my life. And I just couldn't believe it. And I had a dear friend who told me, she said, Liz, you really need to stop eating that fat. She says, it is fat. And she had noticed I put on more weight. And I said, honey, I can't. It's turned the lights on in my head. You do not know how this feels. For me, to be able to think more clearly, communicate more clearly, and it just keeps getting better with the lights on. So at the time after I'd had the attack, um, when my mother and sister died, I started Googling seizures. Um, Now, I'm pretty sure the attack was not a seizure. They call it stress event. But to me, my body shook all over. So they titled it a stress event later when I went back to the doctor. But so I started Googling seizures. And when I started Googling seizures, that's when I found the ketogenic diet and how many carbs. And I told my husband, I said, let's do this. And of course, he's an angel. He says, sure, what do I have to do? Because I'm literally sitting in a chair. And so we started doing that. And he would cook the food. My daughter, my baby girl, Sarah, was putting her food in on Fitness Pal. And so they set me up on Fitness Pal, and we would put in the carbs, and we were counting the carbs. And about that time, I had found Casey, go Keto with Casey. I started, I think she was touting 20 carbs. And so I was aiming at 20 carbs because I knew I was metabolically broken. That was for sure. And so I started counting and I started losing weight. And I lost 30 or 40 pounds, and I was real pleased. I was so pleased that I would send my sisters pictures of me in my smaller clothes. And but I still had this excruciating pain in the right leg, which had then by then started carrying most of the weight. When I could stand with the boot, I was still putting a lot of the weight on the right leg. And I know that my niece, 27, no, several years ago, 15 years ago, they x-rayed my knees and said, you're going to need new knees by the time you're 50. Well, I will be 59 in May. And I was like, well, that's not going to happen either. So I would come across Dr. Sean Baker, and I heard him, and I'm like, you want me to give up vegetables? Of course, coming from a raw food, vegan, vegetarian, I've done it all, fruitarian, I've done it all. I was like, are you kidding me? And so poor Dr. Sean Baker, I'm sitting in a chair yelling at the TV, like, really? Really? You want me to give up vegetables? And so I had heard it 2 or 3 times, but boy, the pain in my right leg. I was just like, I am going to go ask for some medicine. I cannot take this any longer. This is just excruciating. It's crazy. And so I thought, well, before I do that, and then I remembered hollering at my husband. I said, I've got another thing for you. I said, will you go out and buy me the best ribeyes? They have to be organic. They have to be grass fed. I said, go out. I want to do nothing but steak, the top of the line for 3 days. And he said, of course, yes. And so he went and he got them and he fried me the steaks. And oh my God, they were the best things I've ever. I've been eating meat, but on the keto diet, but trying not to get too much because that's not good for us. I did notice that when I did eat a lot of meat, I was like, boy, I feel so much better. But then I was like, oh, I bet I'm out of ketosis. And so I did the 3 days of meat, and I simply lay down in bed and cried. My husband came in, what are you crying about? I said, I've never been this happy, except right after giving birth. The euphoria of that is incredible. But I've never been this happy. And I said, all my pain is gone. I cannot believe all of my pain in my body is gone. This is crazy. I just couldn't believe it. And I was like, I am not going back. Now, that does not mean I'm 100% honest here. That does not mean I don't fall off the wagon and have a donut, or one of my grandbabies brings me a cookie and says, "Here, Granny, I am not going to, be rude to that child. And I'm going to sit there and eat it." And usually what we do in our household is I will take a bite of the cake or the cookie, and then one of my daughter Melanie or one of the other children will slide their hand over and get mom's cookie, and I put it in their hand, and they deal with it. I do the birthday cakes the same way. My daughter's getting married um, this June, and I'm definitely going to have a bite of her wedding cake because I don't want it. I'm superstitious about that for some reason, and I have a little bite of their wedding cake. I know I will, and I will have a little bite of each of my grandchildren's birthday cake. Um, that doesn't mean I tear into it. Usually, I get my bite, and one of my husband or somebody, they just slide the plate out and slide me an empty one in and put a fork in it, and we pretend mom ate it all.
I love it.
So that's pretty much my story. I just wanted people for, oh, I couldn't climb stairs. I left that part out. I could not climb upstairs. I had to go downstairs sideways,
Wow.
and I had to do 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot, 1 foot to get upstairs. And I had been fasting, and I had already been carnivore. And I started carnivore 2018 January, and Dr. Sean Baker threw down the gauntlet to go carnivore for 30 days. And I said, well, it can't hurt. And I did it. And there's no way I won't. I tried to have a vegetable or olives. I tried to have a little olive. That should be good. It's a fat. Oh my gosh, the pain. So my daughter had called me or texted me, Mom, go down to the basement and get whatever it was. So I was like, oh, I went down to the basement to get the said item and to look for the said item. And then I turned around and I came back up the stairs. And I went down 1 foot at a time. And I turned around and I just simply walked up the stairs like a normal person. And I didn't even notice until I got to the top of the stairs. I got to the top of the stairs and I just screamed. I just,
Victory.
yes. And there was no one here but me to see or hear it, but they've seen me since. I've showed them all. Look, how mom couldn't go upstairs. You wouldn't think it was that big of a deal, but it is a big deal to be able to function, especially function without assistance. My husband has, I've been asking him probably ever since we bought the house to put me 2 railings down there. And I just got the other railing the other day, and our contractor guy was here, and I went down and I literally ran up the stairs holding on. I'm pulling my weight and holding on, and ran up the stairs. And I said, by the way, I love both of you guys. My husband and the contractor. I was just so excited. And when part of my exercise is sometimes when I go to the basement, I turn around and run up the stairs. Now my balance in going down the stairs is still off, and I don't go down one step at I go down 1 step at a time because I've got both railings to hold on to, and I do little exercises like when I have a chair, a rocker that I sit in, and it came from my mother-in-law's house. And when I sit in it, I sit down very slowly. I'm doing a reverse squat. That's what I call it. So if I fall into the chair, I'm good. But that's one of my little exercises that I do continuously through the day. And because now I do feel so good that I keep getting up out of the chair, and I keep going to do the dishes, which I couldn't do before. I have the energy, I have the mental capacity and I feel like doing the dishes. That doesn't mean I don't use paper plates, I sure do. But I have the mental or the non depressed state that I guess I was in to get up and do the dishes with it happened in the keto part, but it's even better just in the all beef part. And I've been watching the Raw guys because I'm like, I'm not there yet. I want a faster healing. This is probably selfish of me. So I've been watching the Raw guys. And so I've been thinking about going totally raw for a month and seeing how it sets. And one of the people I was listening to, he's an entomologist, I think. I forget how you say is what he does. But anyway, he says he just eats raw ground beef. And so I buy a 1 pound package and I cut it in fours. And I thought, well, if I could eat a fourth of that, that would be good. I've been nibbling. You're a bite there just to see if I could stomach it and see if it would make me sick. And it didn't make me sick. And so I cut out a fourth and I got an eighth of it down without feeling nauseous or anything. And so yesterday I did a fourth of raw ground beef. And the day before I did the eighth, and it just carried me so beautifully. It was incredible. I was just like, I don't want to eat. There's just, and I only had, I finished off the whole fourth. I made myself eat the whole fourth. But yesterday, I ate the fourth without any problem. I thought, wow, this is neat. I wouldn't have believed I could do it, but I did, and I enjoyed it, and it was very nice. I did salt the ground beef. That made it taste better. But I did, as I was working in the kitchen, I was making my husband's supper. And while I was making his supper, which took my mind off of me eating raw beef, ground beef, next thing I know, I'm finished. I'm finished, and the whole fourth of a pound is gone. And I thought, that is so neat. Um, and it just gets it. The one thing I like about the carnivore diet is I don't have to think about how much fat. I do have, I do eat beef fat. The little guys at the food co-op, uh, they, people who don't want the fat, they cut it off and then they take and sell it to me. And I do put beef fat in when I think I'm having something lean, um, like if my hamburger meat is lean. I can tell when my brain doesn't feel so good that I need to add a little more fat. Um, I had been using the carnivore diet and having cream, and I do have butter coffee still yet. Uh, but I had been having cream, and I would randomly have this, what I call a stinging in the brain. And I found out now I gave up cream at the first of the month, I guess it was. No, first of Lent, I gave up cream. That was my motivation. And uh, I tried to just have a little bit back. I can't remember why I did it. I guess to test it, I'm thinking, oh, that wasn't it. I regretted that decision pretty fast. I got a pretty big migraine and it was not good. So that's when I took out the cream out of the coffee, and now I just have the butter in the coffee to have a fat when I need it. And if I have a huge craving for sugar, what I do sometimes is I've still got a little stevia in the house, and I will put a little stevia in my coffee, and I'll have a decaf coffee like late at night when I have a craving. I will make me a decaf stevia coffee, and that seems to. We're all good.
Wow. So, you know how long you talked? You did great.
No,
You never stopped. It was your whole story. It was your whole timeline. It was beautiful. Um, so just a couple fill in the blanks. So you answered a lot of questions. It was funny because it's like, well, I've got to ask her if she puts salt on it. Well, I've got to ask her if she drinks coffee. I got to ask her how she drinks her coffee. And then you just kept flowing and all the information was given. So see ya. Thanks. No. Um,
well,
it was
one
it was great. And um So now my question to you is, are you OMAD?
No, I am not because I could be on raw meat. I certainly can see that because it was so satisfying, which just kind of blows my mind. But no, I'm not OMAD. Usually around, well, I'm counting my morning coffee too. I have the bulletproof coffee about 11, maybe 12-ish. And then around 3, what I do is I don't feel hunger at all. And I haven't felt hunger in forever. Even before I started keto, I would feel bad. Either it was my glucose was low, and I'm not one of those people who test all the time, even though I test more than I know most people might. But I back then I wasn't testing my sugar at that time. Um, when I was on raw food, I thought my sugar can't be high, even though I put on more weight. But I do drink coffee, and then if my energy level goes down, sometimes it will drop like at 8 or 9 at night, and I'm like, well, this is not good. And so I have some things like summer sausage in there. My husband will make some bacon. I've discovered that I don't sleep well after that. The other night, I had a leftover hamburger, and I had some leftover hamburger, and I noticed, I slept better. And I thought, well, maybe I can have a little beef left over at night if I and I test my sugar. Everything is good, so I'm not sure. To me, the bad feeling is MS, and for some reason, I put in it'd be about a fourth of a pound of meat or less. Um, I put that in, and okay, we're standing up straight again. So I'm not really sure what that is.
I think beef is a miracle drug. I really do.
I'm beginning to think so too. I
And
will
so
probably
I would
I
have
will
loved to have seen you talking to Sean Baker as he's doing a video.
in my chair, yes.
I think he's great. I just love listening to his interviews. I like the human performance outlier interviews a lot. But I am always so amazed at women who are carnivore and they kind of, stumbled into it. It wasn't anything they ever planned to do. They just didn't want to feel the way they were feeling. And you certainly are one of them. How's the backlash or questions or eye rolling with people around you?
Mostly, I'm around my children. Mostly, I can't work. I can't socialize very much due to people's Wi-Fi. I really have a hard time with Wi-Fi and electronics. I do have a cell phone, and I am talking to you on an iPad, but um, if you notice, most of the time I keep looking up because if I look at the iPad for very long, I will get sick. Um, but I forgot what your question is now.
Oh,
Um,
just how people react to you just
oh,
eating meat.
so I mostly, I do have a funny. I was mostly by myself, and my neighbors know of my journey, and the ladies that I walk with in the neighborhood, they know my journey, and my dear sweet friend Jean, she's just wonderful. She's heard every story I've had to tell, and she's much older than I am, and she can flat out walk me. And I literally stopped walking with them because these ladies can flat out walk me. I cannot keep up with them, and quite frankly, I was too embarrassed to tell them. So I do little exercise routines in the house, but my children are very, very supportive. My son and my daughters, when I go to their home, they shut down all the Wi-Fi. They put all of their phones for Christmas. My husband put a little note over here because I made the traditional Christmas dinner. And he put a little sign, it's still there, and a little basket that says, all cell phones here, and please turn them off so that your mother can have a great day with you. And everyone did, except I think my son, he'd been laid off, so he needed to leave his and all, and that was fine. We had them far enough away from me, and we had a beautiful, beautiful day. And I simply ate a huge chunk of turkey, and I did steal all the skin off the turkey. I had rights to the skin.
Isn't that the
But
best part? Permission to have turkey skin? Oh,
oh wow, yeah. So, but I everybody's supportive. They have seen. I try. We've tried for years not to have to expose the children to what I would call attacks, and at first, um, the um, the Wi-Fi was not very well received. I don't think, they just couldn't believe it. And then we were at holiday at my son's house. And then, next thing you know, my husband Jim has got to drag me to the bathroom, and they go, "What's wrong? And why is mom going downhill?" And we said, "We're pretty sure it's the Wi-Fi." And he went and turned it, shut everything off. And I started coming back around.
wow.
Uh, we had been there for a couple of days. It was the Christmas holiday. We went down to South Carolina to spend it with him. And because he was in the Navy at that time, he was stationed down there around Charleston. I forget the area, but that's where he was stationed. And so the children have seen what the diet can do for me, and they are very, very supportive. Um, I get tickled at them um, because they are so sweet about it. Um, you know, how would you like your steak? Or how would you like your burger, mom? Or, they're just, they can tell the fact that I can walk upstairs and I couldn't before. I can't carry the grandchildren up the stairs, or I can't carry any weight in my arms and go up the stairs. But the fact that the right side of my body will receive the signal and will work, to me is incredible. So the people that I deal with are very supportive, and that's just mostly my family. Um,
This
so
is such a wonderful tale. I'm glad we were able to connect and do this.
I,
So I have one more question, and then I need to go because of my medical
yes, you're.
appointment. But you said that you had cream and you got a migraine from the cream.
Oh yeah.
What do you think that was from?
Well, I've known for years that dairy would cause me to have a headache, but that was usually milk, not full fat whipping cream. And so I had started having the full fat whipping cream or butter coffee. I started out with butter coffee, and then just pouring in the whipping cream was easier. And so then I started just pouring in the whipping cream. And I would get a random headache every now and then, which was too bad. And I used to put cheese on the burgers. And but the random headaches wasn't too bad. But then when I gave it up, totally no cream, no cheese on the burgers, I don't know how many days that would have been. That would have only been a week or two. And then I had some. I'm not sure exactly what all happened, but I have one of the worst headaches I have had in forever. Along with, not only was it a headache, a migraine, I also had what I would consider an attack, where my husband has to help me around. And so we wasn't really sure. We just knew that I had had dairy and I had an attack and a migraine, a big one. And so I couldn't quite tell if the migraine brought on the attack, or at sometimes when I would eat certain foods, I would notice that it would affect my legs. It would affect the muscles in my legs because I can feel them drawing or turning. I think it's called spastic. I can feel that happen. Um, and I had noticed that if I got into milk and dairy, but the full fat cream, I thought it was good because they said it was good on keto. So that's what I kept thinking. And then I kept thinking, back to Sean Baker, carnivore, 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 meat and water. And I'm like, oh, he still wants me. I just feel him. He's just saying meat and water, Liz, meat and water. And so that's when I just thought, okay, I'm gonna give up the whip. I didn't have to say okay after that. I was just like, no more whipping cream. I still have a container of whipping cream in there, and my husband doesn't drink it. It'll probably just mold and we'll pour it out, unless one of the children come home in the meantime.
Wow, that's great. You are a great person to interview. It's just like I had to flip the switch and that was it. And you just gave us so much information. And you know, I just loved how you were so on top of each symptom that you had and how the food reacted in your body to it. It was really a beautiful story. I am so happy that we got to meet you, and we'll have to check back in with you.
Well, one reason I wanted to do this is, if I can tell this real quick, someone from back home where we're originally from, we retired down here, and someone from back home said I was really doing really, really bad. And that motivated me to say, no, I'm not doing bad at all. You saw me at one of my worst moments, which was at my mother's funeral. That Liz doesn't exist 99% of the time. That Liz happens once ever, I don't know when. Hopefully we'll get to where it doesn't happen again. But that's what motivated me to say, if you have MS, this helped me. I don't know if it'll help you. Oh, and one thing I
That's
wanted
okay.
to say too, I'm sorry about that, is I did put on weight with the carnivore diet. My weight did go back up, but I'm waiting for it to fix everything and
How
go
long have
come
you
back
been
down.
clean carnivore? And then I need to go.
Um, 100% clean carnivore has just been 2, 3 weeks since Lent started.
Okay. All right. Well, this will be interesting because oh, I can't think of her name, but she put on a lot of weight when she first went to carnivore and then it came off. This will be
Mm-hmm,
interesting. It sounds like your body's doing a tremendous amount of healing
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
starters. And you know what? It's like I'm mostly meat now. I still have a little smidgen of other stuff, but it when you start feeling good and you
Yep.
have felt good, and for you and me, it's both the stairs because I had problems with the stairs, and it's just like you start feeling good and you start saying, "Wait, schmate, who cares?
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I just want a steak. It
yeah, yeah.
tastes good. It feels good." Well, Elizabeth, we need to go, so I'm going
Yes,
to say thank you to you.
thank
And
you.
thank you
Yes.
to all the viewers that watched this. I hope it helped you. I know somebody commented just today on my interview with Susan Miller, um, Tuesday with a Turtle, and they said that they had MS. And I said, "Oh, well, I'm interviewing somebody in a few minutes." So,
Uh,
yeah,
okay, you're
so that, you're not alone. And who knows, maybe you two can have a little dialogue here.
oh,
So,
that'd be lovely.
goodbye to everybody but you. And
Uh-huh.
thank you so much. I'm so glad this worked out for us. Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everybody, for watching.